So here we are. We have 1 duck, 2 duck, 3 ducks, Sasha, and Jen. So this is just the first part of what we want to have be kind of a reoccurring thing with different people who are not just crafters but creatives within Broadway and Broadway adjacent things. So I guess the easiest thing to do is to start with everyone kind of sharing who they are, what they do, what multiple Broadway related things they do, and those kinds of things. So Sasha, do you want to start?
Sure. My name's Sasha. I run Some Other Me shop, which makes Playbill Flowers, and I have Some Other Slime, which makes slime, and they're all Broadway themed. I usually make music videos for my slime, which obviously are Broadway themed. And I also work at the Broadway Green Alliance. I'm a former press rep and former casting, but times is tough, so
Cool beans. Jen?
I'm Jen. I am the founder of Scenery Bags, and we take retired theatrical backdrops and turn them into bags, and the percentage of proceeds goes to Take Kids to See Theater through TDF. And I am something like that, stage manager, and I've worked for the last 20 years as a professional stage manager regionally, off-Broadway and on Broadway. So, and then I had a baby, so I started a company, and here we are.
Fem boss.
Yes. Girl boss.
Girl boss. That's what it is, right? Fem boss.
I'll together. That's fine.
I guess we can break ours down. We're all together, but I'm Hannah.
I'm Lauren.
I'm Kayla.
This is how we function all the time because Kayla is not in New York, New Jersey with us. She is in New Hampshire still. But together we obviously do the ducks. This is obviously going to be posted on our account, so I would hope that people would know what we do. But clearly, we make rubber ducks into Broadway characters, give them to the actors. We don't really sell them because mass producing is not easily feasible for us. And now we're trying to get a little social media pressy video written content because people seem to care about our Broadway shenanigans for some reason or another. So here we are. So I guess I know the one question that we got through our thing that I'm assuming maybe folks just didn't know who else would be with us, but it's kind of how you started what you do, why you do what you do. So we can toss it on. Jen, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, as a stage manager, I always hated when I saw a show close and everything would get thrown away. We have unfortunately a beautiful industry, but a very wasteful one. And so I was always, I had a blog before this that was DIY and then give back an ethical style. So, and it was kind of the other half to my stage management side, and I never thought the two would have anything to do with each other. There was the blogger side of me and the stage manager side of me, and never the twain shall meet. And then this idea came to me, and I was like, this is it. This is a marriage of literally everything that I do and care about. But I was the stage manager who would collect we had a shotgun in one of our shows that had these giant shells, and so I collected them and made jewelry out of them for the cast. I just didn't like seeing things thrown away. So that was a huge impetus. I also have always had a big heart for accessibility. I tried to start, and I've always tried to, in between shows, I would always try to start companies, and then I'd do another show and kind of leave it on my desktop somewhere. But I was trying to start this other company that was like a Fandango, but for theater. That was essentially.
Oh my God, we were just talking about this at work the other day with my friends who have Movie Pass.
Hi, puppy. So I feel like we need to reach a new generation in their language. I feel like that's important, and I also know that theater is hard to find originally. Unless you love it and you know how to access it, you'd have to look up theaters near you, go to each website individually, find what it is. I'm getting way off topic. I'm sorry.
No, this is so awesome.
But so I was trying to figure out a way to like get all of that information in one space. So you can go to a website, type in your zip code, and know like what theaters are near you and what they're playing, like all in one location. That ended up being really challenging, so I stopped doing it. But if anyone listening likes the idea, it's yours. It's the world. Go. Because I think it would be really helpful. But like access to theater from both a, I feel like we're losing a younger generation a little bit because it's not in schools as much, because it's just not quite as prevalent. It's not an option, unfortunately. Like you on a Friday night, you have free time, you think to go to a movie, but you don't think to go see a show.
It's not as accessible.
Yeah, exactly. And then like price is also another part of that. But now with like 3D, IMAX, whatever, you can find a theater ticket for the same price, really. So accessibility was always a big thing too. And so I knew that I wanted to start a company. I decided that like drops made perfect sense because it's like a giant swatch of material that would otherwise get thrown away. I started calling up all of my production managers and directors and theater friends I've ever worked for and said, can I have your trash? And they said yes. And I started hoarding it in my parents' storage unit in San Diego. And then I needed to find someone to help me make them. And I found a nonprofit in LA that we originally partnered with. And then they very quickly said that it was not going to work because they weren't going to be able to keep up, which I'm grateful forever for them. And then I found our manufacturers in Florida. And that's where our bags are made now. But I knew that when I wanted to start this company, I wanted to have a social initiative. And I knew that I wanted to take kids to see theater. It was like the cart was way before the horse. I knew I wanted to take kids to see theater. I didn't know how I was going to do that. And so I went to Google and said, New York nonprofits that take kids to see theater. And I found TDF. I mean, I had known of TDF, but I didn't know the whole breadth of what they do. Mm-hmm. And it's everything I wanted and more. Their program is so incredible. What they do with these kids, they do mentorship, they do teaching, and then not only do they get to see a Broadway show, but then their alumni of the program forever get discounted tickets. So it's not just that they're introducing another generation that may not have had access to a Broadway show before, but they're also, giving them a love of theater and then letting them continue to be patrons of the arts for as long as they're here in New York, which is really amazing. Like TDF is best ever.
I'm a TDF member, so you're preaching to the choir. So wait, for everybody watching though, if you don't know what TDF is, and you're,
there's like quite a few things that can get you into
I want to say that like you have to be kind of like high school age or older for like TDF, but for like the part that you're working with, there's like a whole nother process. But if you're like high school age or older and you go to their website, there's like a laundry list of qualifications that make it so easy for you to qualify. And it's like usually like $25 for the year. And you go on at any given time and they give you a list of not only like Broadway, but there's off, 54 below shows, concerts, being from Jersey, a bunch of NJ Pack stuff comes up all the time. Sometimes musical festivals, Paper Mill, and it's amazing. They get great seats and great deals, and you can go see these shows. Worth it. Yeah. I got front row center for Wonderland when it was still on Broadway through TDF.
Hey.
Which that show closed too soon. My heart.
But yeah, I think that's a really circuitous way of telling my story. Sorry.
No, I think it's all necessary. Yeah. It's good.
So here we are.
Awesome.
Sasha.
How the question is how we got
started.
How
did you get started? Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of convoluted if we're being perfectly honest. I used to have a popular Broadway blog called Broadway Spotted. And
surprise! She's Broadway Spotted!
A secret agent for Broadway. It was weird and wonderful and bizarro. But while I was Broadway Spotted, I would go to the shows and I saw hundreds of shows. And even more playbills all over the floor every single time I went to a show. And I tweeted a whole bunch of times because Twitter was my main platform at the time. It's been a little bit hijacked by some evil people, so we don't go there anymore. But I used to be on Twitter all the time. And so I would tweet like, hey, there has to be something we can do so that this isn't wasted. And no one ever replied to me. But I was getting replies from massive things. So I was like, why are they ignoring this one thing? It was really bizarre because at the time I could literally tweet like, hey, Spider-Man, blah, blah, blah. And they'd be like, here's tickets. And I was like, I'm not asking for tickets. I'm asking you to recycle. So it wasn't like they just weren't paying attention. And so I tweeted at the Broadway Green Alliance and I was like, you know, people make origami out of paper. Like, what if we did something with some of the playbills and then sold it for BCFA? Nobody replied to me. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll do it myself. Like, literally, because I was just annoyed that nobody was paying attention to me because everyone, like, it seemed so obvious that you could make something beautiful out of them and sell them for charity. Like, that was the like idea behind it. But they ignored it because I found this out later now that I work for them. They didn't have a social media person at the time, so they didn't even know I was saying anything. I now run their social media, so this doesn't happen to anybody else. So we will make sure we catch everything. But so I started making them as gifts for, like, if I had extra playbills or if like my friends were in a show and their show closed, they would just give me some. It wasn't like the massive like amounts. And I started giving them as gifts for opening nights, for like whatever, for my friends, because I was like, well, at least it's something different. They don't die, even though flowers are the traditional theater opening night gift. So I did that, and then people would see them and be like, well, I want those too. And I was like, why do you want them to? It was very bizarre. So I started selling them, and after, like, I had only been selling them for maybe a month, and the Broadway Green Alliance emailed me and they were like, hey, will you make these for us to sell at the flea market? And I was like, you guys, you can't be serious. Like, they were like, we'll pay you if you, and I was like, no, you don't have to pay me to do it. That was the whole, like, were you not listening to me from the beginning? And so I was just like, yes, fine, we'll do it, whatever you want, because that was the whole point to begin with. And I tried to just pitch it that way to begin with, and it took a whole 2 extra years to get to it exactly what the idea had been from the beginning. So that was weird. So that's Flowerland. And then I don't know how political we're allowed to be here, but this is one of the number one questions I get asked about slime is, how did you start your slime account? Because people think there aren't a lot of adults that play with slime, but it's a lie.
That's a lie.
If they're telling you adults aren't playing with slime, they're lying to you. Don't listen to them. More than 50% of my customers are adults, so don't listen to them. And it's very cathartic and relaxing and wonderful. So the 2016 election happened. We all know that happened. It's a thing that happened. Kind of like when I don't like a theatrical production, I don't say anything in the theater. I kind of just say, well, it was a show and there were people and they sang. I don't like to badmouth anything publicly, so we're just going to say that for now. So the 2016 election happened, womp womp, and I started to turn into a really mean, angry person as a result of all of the kind of outside things that were happening. I'm not a mean, angry person. If anyone's ever on any of my accounts, I'm kind of like, I mean, can you see how many colors decorate my place? Like, like, I'm wearing a Sondheim sweatshirt. I'm pretty chill. I have pink hair. Like, we're not angry people. But I was turning into an angry person, and it was really scaring me a little bit to see like how my soul felt more like what I did, the people that I didn't respect. So I was like, I need something to fix that. I stumbled upon an article online of how to make lavender anti-stress dough. And I was like, I like lavender. And in the recipe, they like said you could put glitter in it and all this stuff. And it was like, it wasn't a kid website. Like, this was on like, I think it's like Hello Giggle. It's Hello Giggle. It was on Hello Giggle. And it was beautiful. And it was like this sparkly Play-Doh that was scented with lavender essential oils. And I was like, that sounds like something I could get behind. Let me make this. And so I made it. And I was like, I really enjoy this. And then at the time, I'm really close to some kids that I used to nanny. And so I was like, hey, I made this cool stuff. Do you want to see it? And they were like, what is it? Like some weird slime? And I was like, what? And like it clicked in my head and I was like, slime. And they were like, yeah, everybody plays with slime. I was like the Nickelodeon stuff. And they were like, I don't know what that means. And I was like, oh.
Oh God.
I was like, okay. I was like, wonderful, great. Well, that's what it is. And they were like, well, we make slime instead of that dough stuff because it's better. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. So I looked up a recipe online and I tried to make it and it was bad. It was really bad. I had succeeded at the dough and I failed miserably at the slime. I was like, wow, this is awful. My husband walked into our kitchen and he said, what is that? And I was like, I don't really want to talk about that. And he's like, is it staying? I was like, I'm going to throw it away, but I just want to see if it comes together overnight. It did not. It did not come together overnight. You have to use the correct ingredients. I did not. I thought I was wrong. So anyway, I finally found the correct ingredients and I made it and I was like, oh my God, this is so much better. And it's very stress relieving. I can make them smell like anything I want. I can make them look like anything I want. I can make them feel like anything I want. And I can make them all named after my favorite Broadway stuff. So it's like, this is a win. The greatest part about that is exactly what we were just talking about accessibility and people not knowing about things anymore. It's not in schools and things. I've been very blessed with the amount of reach that I've been able to get from this. And the number one like favorite messages that I get all the time are, I only knew about Hamilton and now I know about all these other shows and I downloaded all the soundtracks and I go, cast recording, but I don't say that because like in my head, I'm like, it's not a soundtrack, but I don't want them to be like, she's a mean person. So instead I'm just like, yeah, that's fantastic, but like, I can't even tell you how many kids after I did the Rent one was like, I didn't even know this existed. And I was like, you didn't even know Rent existed? Like, that's real. This happens. Mm-hmm. But these are, primarily 13 to 16-year-olds who live elsewhere and they never heard these songs before, but because I make music videos, now they hear them and they're like, I really like that one too. That's like a really cool song, and I'm like, I know, right? So that's the really cool thing about it for me. And now that I've started going to like events and things, kids come up to me and they're like, I do theater too. And they're like, they feel comfortable talking about it. It's like cool now, or like, not because of me per se, but like, Glee and a million other things, but they just like want some of the about it. But it's very interesting. So yeah.
Okay. So we're at our story.
We're at our story. So our story starts with this one. It starts with that one.
Okay. So my full-time job is working with college students, doing all the fun student activities things, groups, clubs, community service, orientation, all that jazz. I was in grad school 2 years ago. We started this 2 years ago.
Was it 2 or 3
two,
now?
Two. It was my second year of grad school. Right, Kayla? Did we go to Hamilton 2 years ago?
When did we go to Hamilton? 2016, right?
Yeah. So 2 years ago. Okay. Anywho, I was doing a program with students called Do You Have Your Ducks in a Row for Class Registration? And we were just like sitting outside handing people we found these white rubber ducks with markers being like, here, decorate a duck and let us tell you about class registration and how to do it if you haven't done it yet. And there was a lull in the number of people coming. And so I started coloring on my own duck naturally, and it was horrible. But like horribly, like I was just doing it quick. But we ended up with a little Hamilton duck. And then I got even more bored and ended up with a little Book of Mormon duck. And then flash forward, that was for registration for the spring. So I must have been doing that in like November. And then Kayla and I got tickets to Hamilton. And so Lauren, so this is when Kayla and I were closer to each other because I was in Salem, she's in New Hampshire. But we're friends with Lauren via the social medias and all that jazz. And Lauren was like, do the ducks, but make them for everyone in Hamilton, but like make them better because, I just scribbled on the one I had.
Let me preface this with, for Christmas that year, Hannah had sent me this like OG Hamilton Broadway duck. Like it was just one of those things
that she made 2 floors below us.
If it wasn't downstairs,
no one needs to see it. It's okay.
But it was like the funniest thing with these googly eyes and like drawn to look like Alexander Hamilton. And I was dying.
At the time, it was like beautiful and convincing, and now we look at it like, ooh.
Like this one.
Side note, anyway. Okay, yes, some of the OG ones are they're a little, they're working on this.
It looks like this.
There it is. There's an OG
You
duck.
made me want to. This is what it looked like. Really,
Duck right there.
you know.
So anyway, so the ones we delivered to the cast looked better than that, a little bit. Made them for pretty much everyone except for like all the ensemble dancers, but all the main folks in Hamilton. Brought them all with me to New York. Kayla and I, we go to the stage door. The first person to get a duck in their hand was Jonathan Groff.
John Groff.
Jonathan Groff was the first person with a Broadway duck in his hand, and miraculously loved it. His was really good. His had a lot of add-ons because of the King stuff. And David got his by hand. Chris Jackson got his by hand. Jasmine got hers by hand that night. And Anthony. I think those are like the ones that came out and got them. The rest of them we left at the stage door and said, hope these make it to who they're supposed to. And then I think it went from there between the three of us being like, I'm going to see this show next. So it was Kayla and I seen them less frequently because we weren't here. But we'd be like, or I'm going to do this show and I'm going to send it to Lauren, who's then going to bring it. Or I'm just going to send it straight to the theater, which is why I did all the She Loves Me ones, which worked out because Laura Benanti put it on her Instagram.
And it just became like a thing. It was the weirdest.
We did it as a thank you. It was for us, I think, a thank you for the actors for the joy that they gave us. And then the Twitter didn't start with the ducks. The Twitter came, I don't know how many months after. The Twitter came, then the Instagram came, and then the followers just started coming. And we still don't have like it's like 2,000 on Instagram, but like the ones that are there are like there. And it's
we have
interesting. And then
like the voted people who are like, when are you going live next? Like, let's talk. Like, what ducks are you making? And it just was the weirdest thing.
And I think because it's something so unique and so like little and random, the actors remember us. Andrew Reynolds a month ago now, at Boys in the Band. She had made a Hedwig one. We never got around to finding a Hedwig to give it to you because she made it after Hedwig had closed. We had a few prospects and then they never lined up. And my mom was like, girls, we're going to Boys in the Band tonight, like bring the Hedwig duck. And we're like, Mom, you're a genius. So we brought it and presented it to Andrew and he's like, oh my God, my duck girls. Like they just they remember. And it's fun. It's fun in that aspect. And then it's just become this like, people realize that we go to shows a lot and we know a lot of things. And so that's what sparked the let's make videos while we eat tacos, or let's run around Broadway Con and talk to people, or let's show people what we're doing in the city that day. So we've made some really good connections since then. And I think it's only going to keep going and going.
I think the coolest thing though is how the actors react to it. And not only the actors, like we made, for the main cast of SpongeBob, we made them all ducks, and it was probably the most fun ducks that we've gotten to do. We went all out because we had just done Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which were insane. So we went all out and we added clay and we made a little Gary.
I gave Gavin's 4 legs.
And the actors, we have a rough cut video of all of their reactions at the stage door, and just the joy and love that they get from these little things just keeps us going. And then Chris Gattelli saw them and reached out to us and was like, oh my God, these things are adorable, make me one. And we were like, oh, okay.
He's ready for us to get going with Cher.
So now he keeps, hey, are you ready for Cher? Like the costumes are gonna have a lot of sparkle. I hope you have sparkle ready. And like, he's all about it. And Spencer Lift is like,
choreographers just seem to love
apparently choreographers, we can't dance. Spencer's like, hey, you're making head over heels ducks, right? I need those. And we're like, oh yeah. And people just start asking for them, and then asking, when's your next delivery, and who are you doing next, and how is the process of these coming? And we have Once on This Island ones that we've been working on for like 3 months, and people are like, when are we gonna see them? When are we gonna? I'm like,
those ones take a lot.
But yeah, and I mean, we don't profit off of it. At one point we were selling them, and it just got really difficult because price point, like wise, in order to like make it worth, the time and the effort of it, like the price point seemed high because you're getting a little duck, but people weren't understanding that like it's a little duck, but everything's hand drawn and handmade and painstaking. Like it takes 2 to 3 hours for duck sometimes. And our followers are a lot younger, so it's like mom and dad have to approve them buying these things and whatnot. So long story short is like, will we still sell them if people want to buy them? Yeah, but it's more of a gift and a fun thank you to all these people for the blood, sweat, and tears that they put into their job.
Kayla, anything to add?
No, I think you're just a
Creator.
Kayla's had the best coverage of the ducks, though. Her duck was on
Anastasia, because Christy Altamar blew those ducks up.
no, what TV show was
Oh!
Josh Groban?
Yeah, Josh Groban.
Yeah, Josh Groban had like a picture of his fan art on Colbert, and there was the duck that Kayla made.
Right there.
Right there.
And we were like, we made it, Ma. We're a pretty squid. But yeah, I mean, weird enough. That's how we started.
Okay. I know that one thing I think that we want to touch on, Aubrey, our one of our followers, Aubrey, who does the Broadway bows, the Broadway boutique, makes the cute little hair bows. She wanted to know kind of what she can do or any tips for crafters or Broadway creators who maybe want to be more profitable and those kinds of things to know, tips to get started. I think one thing that I think all of our stories have kind of stressed is that it doesn't happen overnight, that it takes a long time to really build things up. But I guess beyond that, since you both sell more than we do, any tips you would have?
Well, I'd say just start, and I feel like, a lot of people have. It's been so fun, like kind of meeting all of the Broadway makers gang. But it's something that like what you were saying, but like giving them out to people on Broadway, like it's very helpful. It's instantly letting an audience that would be attracted to what you're offering know that you're there. And so, it's like influencer marketing and that kind of thing. And it sometimes feels like icky, but those are, like something that my little duckies touched on, that I feel I always say that like this company, the scenery bag is like my love letter to the theater community, and if it's anything less than that, then I'm doing something very, very wrong. And so I kind of always come back to that as my touchstone. And so like I like to send love letters out to the theater community. And if I'm here at Williamstown Theater Festival right now, and I have 3 of the designers from the summer season, I have bags of their drops, and I have a few cast members that are out here that I have bags from their shows. So I called the shop and I'm like, can you send me XYZ? And I'm going to hand them out. And because it's also part of their history and I want them to have that. But I feel like if you are genuine in what you are doing, I'm not handing them out because, I am trying to be like slimy about it. Like I'm handing them out because I want them to have a piece of something that they made. And they, like in this very finite industry of theater, having something that's infinite is rare. And so it's cool that we can give people that. And so that's something that we have, but I feel like anyone who is building something, making something that is theater centric, there's a huge support system for that. And it's just about letting people know that you're there, I think is really step one.
Yeah. I think not only letting people know that you're there, but if you are getting started and you don't have, like what Jen does is a little bit different because it's she sells it directly off of a direct website, which I also do now. But when I was getting started, I just put my stuff up on Etsy. And Etsy has, a lot of issues and whatever like that, but it is a great place to start. And the reason for that is that there's built-in marketing in there and people are going there looking for handmade crafts. So there's competition there, but there's not a lot of Broadway related stuff. So if you use the Broadway tag and and they're looking for a Broadway gift or whatever like that, it's, you have a pretty high chance of being found on there because no one's going on there looking for a mass-produced poster or something like that. It's all made things. So that's a place to start. And I definitely agree about, you know, getting your product out there and everything. And I don't think it has to be slimy. I mean, like, marketing is a real thing that everybody does if they're successful in any way, whether they are a charity or a high power business person or whatever. Marketing is a thing for everybody. And as long as you are authentically yourself, I don't think it will be slimy. That's one of the things that I get told a lot, because ever since, like, I checked before I started making the slimes that I make. I like went through every hashtag I could think of to see if anyone else was making Broadway slime, and there wasn't any there. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this fun thing that like just popped into my head one day. And I didn't plan to sell it at that time. It was just like, I just didn't want anyone to think I was like stealing their game if someone was doing it. And since I've done it, a lot of people have started doing it, and I don't care. I don't say anything, like, live your best life, but I get tagged in a lot of comments where people say, like, you clearly made the exact same thing that you did. So they're not being authentically themselves, because the best example I can give you is I have a slime called Alpha Butter, because it's a butter slime that looks like alphabet. And I thought that was funny, so I named it Alpha Butter. And that's not actually the character's name, obviously. So if someone makes something and they call it Alphaba, they're inspired by Wicked. But if they call it Alpha Butter, it's a little weird, you know? And so don't do that. Do something that's inspired by the thing you love, not by another creator. You know what I mean? I think unless, like, if you're being inspired by someone who's completely in a different, like, I'm constantly inspired by performers. I'm constantly inspired by directors. I'm constantly inspired by those things, but I'm not directing in someone's style. I'm making slime in a director's style, you know? So it's like a twist on it. And if you take you and put it into this other thing, I think people recognize authenticity and enjoy it.
Like, I was backing on the marketing thing too. Like, no, it's not slimy. We can tell you personally, me, Kayla, and Hannah have delivered ducks or sent ducks or given ducks where, you know, of course we want them to take a photo and post it on Instagram and tag us, and, you know, their followers see it and their followers. But there's probably like a good 10, 15, 20 ducks that have been delivered to actors that we've never gotten confirmation that they've got them. We've never seen photos. We've never anything like that. And that is what it is. Yeah. You know, they get these ducks, they get these gifts, like, you know, they're thankful for it, but it wasn't the intent.
So much
wasn't
stuff that they can't saturate their social media with every single thing they get.
But when we give it to them, the intent is not like, yes, it's a great boost when they do, but the intent is not for us to have this.
The intent is, thank you.
You know, it's exactly, the added. Exactly. So, you know, like, know that you know, we'll send things to people, you'll make things for people, and sometimes you won't get feedback from it, but that doesn't mean they didn't get it, and that doesn't mean that it's not getting out there. You know, if somebody puts something in their dressing room, all the people that visit their dressing room are going to see it, and just because it's not posted anywhere or publicly thanked doesn't mean that, you know, XYZ isn't going to walk in there and be like, oh my god, look at this cute little thing, and they're like, oh yeah, this person made it for me.
Very true.
I kind of wanted us all to touch upon, just like the use of social media and kind of the implications it has, both good and bad. And I think, like Sasha said, you know, people will tag her and say, this person's copying you, or like any of those kinds of things. Like, there's like the downsides to it, but obviously there's the really good sides to it where we can have these conversations. Like, for instance, in the last 2 days, Instagram opening that question thing, like, led to this whole new like conversation that you're having with folks. Or technology like this, we can do this, and then we can put it on YouTube, and we can put it on little clips on our Instagram and everything. So I guess maybe, how do we all think social media has helped or hindered us, and do we think that we would be where we would be without it? I think we would still be doing what we're doing personally, just because it's like a fan art kind of thing in a way. We're doing it as a thank you, and we'd still be delivering these to actors even if, you know, people weren't seeing them. But I think all the little added things we've done, and all the added like people who follow us because of the things outside the ducks, I think that's definitely come from it. Kayla, how do you feel being a distance ducker? Do you think that the social media keeps you in the loop?
Yeah, I think personally, like, using social media to connect with actors outside it. I know just like reaching out to Christy before we saw Anastasia, reaching out to a few other actors about our ducks and just saying, hey, like, this is a thing that I do. Are you interested? Would you like one? Just kind of like tagging them and then having them see that. They're kind of like, oh, that's a cool thing. What are you doing? Like, and then just like reconnecting also then going to the stage door with that duck, and then they're like, oh my God, like, you're Broadway ducks, like, that is so cool. And I think it's just that connection, especially because like not everyone lives in the city, and I know a lot of our followers feel that. So I think social media just plays a huge role into how like we're portraying it. I think it's definitely something we'd still be doing if we didn't have it, but I think it's just a great way for us to connect with the actors and connect with other people that we meet throughout the community.
With that being said, me, Kayla, and Hannah literally met through social media. I live with Hannah, and I met her 3.5 years ago through a fan-run Twitter for an actor.
I don't know
that she ran.
Run a
That we won't go there, but it was, social media is huge, and I think it's amazing that it's connecting all these people and all these people with like interests. And I think what I want to ask everybody is how you feel that your Instagram, your Twitter, your website, your social media in general, how do you think it's positively affecting, you know, these young followers who, Sasha touched on it before, but who are now being opened up to all these new things, who are seeing your adventures and hearing your reviews and hearing your, you know, elderly advice. I mean, that's the best way to say it. You know, we're all in our late 20s, early 30s.
Elderly.
You know, but a lot of our followers. Adult advice. Because a lot of our followers are younger and, you know, didn't know Rent, didn't know, you know, all these amazing shows, and are being, you know, hey, what's your favorite show? And we'll be like, oh, well, my favorite show is,
I said Company today.
She said Company today. One of my favorite shows is Rent. Another one of our favorite shows is like You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. And some of these shows these kids have never heard of, didn't know existed. So like, how do you feel you're influencing this new generation through your social media, and like what kind of important part do you think it plays? You know, my roundabout question there. That was a really long question.
Jen?
Well,
Jen, you want to
we would not 100% not be where we are without Instagram. That is actually, we now sell everything through the website, but when I first started, I made like a test run of 25 bags just to see if people would like this idea, what would happen, and I sold them only on Instagram. And I was like, email me if you want one. And they sold out in 48 hours. And I was like, okay. And I at that time had like maybe 100, maybe 100 followers that were like really my friends. So I'm like, guys, I started this thing. Like, come check it out. And so I was like, okay, proof of concept is there. Let's see. But one of the people who got one of our first run of 25 bags was Krista Rodriguez, because we did Spring Awakening together, 2.0. And she and I actually had lunch a couple days ago because she's out here at Williamstown, and she's like, do you remember talking about scenery bags in the wings at Spring Awakening? And she's like, now it's a thing. But she was like definitely a huge supporter of this idea from the beginning. Like, she like come by, she's like, how's it going? I can sew, do you need me to come sew? Like, she's like the best. So, and she always said, like, as soon as you have a bag, like, you have to get one to me. And so I did, and she posted on Instagram right away, and we got like 1,000 new followers overnight, and one of which was Rachel Bloom from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and who emailed me, like personally emailed me, and was like, how do I buy a bag? I need one. And I was like, okay, yes, here, like, please have one. So I sent one to her also, and she posted it on Instagram immediately, and then we got like 4,000 new followers from her. And because she posted it, the Upworthy found us, which is like, do you guys know of Upworthy? It's like one of my favorite publications, because it's like Huffington Post of like do-goodery essentially, and they're awesome. And I got a message through our Facebook page of all places saying, hey, I found you through Rachel Bloom's post. I think what you're doing is awesome. Would you mind like doing an interview for a feature? Like, I'm sorry, what?
What?
Like,
Nah, I don't want to do that.
yeah, I'd love to. So we, after Krista's post, knowing I had sent it back to Rachel, I launched our website in an afternoon because I'm like, we just need a landing page for people to like at least give us their emails while we like try to make more bags. And then, so the interview for Huffington Post was in July. And they're like, it'll hit like early August, we'll let you know. And I was like, okay, great. August 1st, morning of August 1st, the Upworthy article hits. And I had no idea. And then Broadway World picked it up that same day and ran their own feature on us. And we went like crazy viral, which was like the most amazing and scary thing ever to happen to me in my entire life. But we sold 4,000 bags in 48 hours from those 2 articles. And it like put us on the map. People found us. Now theaters know who we are, and they like, I get at least 2 emails a week from theaters wanting to give us the drops they would otherwise be throwing away. Like, people know about us now because of that sequence of things. So whenever I see Krista, I'm like, it's all thanks to you. Thank you. Because I'm wholly aware that like I could not have done this on my own. It is because of generous, wonderful people who got the word out. And I was very lucky, and I have amazing followers who have been super supportive and also very patient, because we sold like 4,000 bags in 48 hours. And then I lost my manufacturer in LA, so I had no way to make these bags. Then I got a new manufacturer in Florida. We started producing bags, and then the Florida hurricane hit and closed my shop down. So like, it was definitely has been a year, and I learned a lot, and I feel like I did everything backwards, but I'm still so grateful for our trajectory. But it's wholly 100% social media. Like, I owe everything to Instagram. I'm still figuring out Twitter. Twitter and I, we're not so sure. I hopped late onto the bus when like Twitter was already kind of like ruined in whatever way, and I'm just, Instagram's my jam. Facebook, we're cool, but Twitter and I, I'm not so much. But yeah, and so, but like, then once we started up and running and like really like trying to fulfill all of these orders, they bought 3 new machines. We've hired 3 new full-time seamstresses to this like cute little idea company is now employing like victims of the flooding in Florida, and like, it's really awesome, and like taking kids to theater and like saving lives, and it's more than I could ever have imagined when I started it. And I'm incredibly grateful, and I'm incredibly grateful for people like you, people like, you know, anyone in this community. I really didn't know what I was getting into, like taking a step out from like my backstage life as a stage manager to do this new thing. But yeah, 100% social media. It's all been social media.
And your bags were left and right on the Tony red carpet this year.
There were like 4 of them on the red carpet. And I gotta say, like, the people on social media, you just recently posted like them adding like the little straps and making them crossbodies. Like, I love it. I love it.
I know. I was like, yes, you got the like styling up. It is great.
That break a leg bag is gonna be mine soon. I have to save up for it, but I need it in my life.
I mean, they're all like my little children. I know them, you know, like people are like, oh, you can like identify all the drops. I'm like, yeah, I've lived with them. But the break leg one is pretty awesome.
And it fits the playbill so perfectly.
So social media, I mean, it's really funny. It's hard because I was talking to, so this 13-year-old that I know, she's 13 now, but I used to be her nanny when she was younger, and she came to help me today with some production stuff.
Oh, she cut foam.
She did. She cut foam. She put labels on jars. She cut foam. It's her summer job. She's making money. I pay her. It's not a free thing. You know, I think everyone should, your time is valuable and you should learn that from a young age. Like, she was like, I'll just do it because I love you. I was like, no, your time is valuable. You'll be paid. But we were talking today because we talked about how, like, the difference between her parents' generation and, like, she's like, I can talk to you and you understand my lingo. And I was like, well, it's because I was like, my generation created the memes that you think are funny. Sorry about it, babe. You know what I mean? Like, it's true. Like, I had a computer in my room when I was like a preteen, and we were creating not me personally, but like, you know, the internet culture as a whole was created by my generation. And so I think I always kind of say, like, my entire existence is almost born out of social media. And I know that sounds really odd, and everyone's like, but social media is so weird. And I'm like, is it though? It's kind of not, because it connects us more than anything else ever has. It's like, if you want to talk about all the letters that were written by the Hamiltons to each other, it's the same exact thing. It's just a different form. You know, I just use Hamilton as an example because I'm a theater trash, but it could be anybody.
As we all are.
As we all are.
Yeah. So, you know, I literally, I mean, I graduated high school, and one of the first jobs that I had in Los Angeles was like almost like what they call like a bullpen of teenagers that Universal Music hired. And it was, Facebook barely even existed at this time. I'm old. But they literally hired a bunch of teenagers, and they tossed us all in a room, and they said, figure out how to market our music on social media. And we were like, what does that mean? And they were like, MySpace, message boards, Facebook.
MySpace.
Figure it out. And we were like,
Top 8.
okay. And so because we had to figure that out, it was almost second nature when the other social media platforms came into existence for me to be like, obviously I'm going to put my stuff on these because I already know how to do this. I did this before. And so, I mean, and especially because Broadway Spotted was a Twitter thing, and then Instagram is now a thing. And I definitely think my entire being kind of is just social media driven. Yeah, completely.
And I think I see it like working with college students every day too, and these students who, like, because of, you know, all these things going on social media and, you know, people creating things and such, they see this whole other path after graduation too, whether it's being a social media like coordinator and that's your job and that's what you're gonna do with your communications degree, or you were a business major and you said, hey, I have this idea and I'm gonna start my business on social media. I think that having these things, like, obviously there's a lot of downsides to social media that we don't need to delve into, but I think we've all pointed out that there are a lot of upsides to it. I tell my students all the time.
You know, I mean, like, I don't remember how long ago it was, but there was literally an article, like maybe 4 years ago, like, eating too much broccoli can give you cancer. Like, I might be exaggerating, but
yeah,
literally
everything has a downside.
So yeah, we can say like, oh, Facebook was overtaken and we had all these issues because of it. Yeah, certain people are on Twitter, but like, you don't have to be that person. You don't have to use it that way. And you also don't have to accept people who use it that way into your platform. That's a discussion I have with a fair amount of my followers are younger. And something that I say all the time is, this is my space, not my space, but my space. And if you're going to come here with negativity, you will be blocked. And they're like, well, you can't just block me for voicing my opinion. And I'm like, actually, I can, because this is my space. And if you want to come, like, I posted, you know, during Pride weekend, I posted a whole thing because I'm a huge supporter of the LGBTQ plus community. Obviously, we all are. As if you're working in theater and you're not, I don't know who
Something's wrong.
Who do you hang out with? I don't know. Could be anybody, but not my friends. But so I posted something, and a lot of people who came to say something, they were like, you can't delete my comment just because I say that's an abomination. And I was like, I absolutely will delete your comment because you say that, because this is my space, and it's a space of positivity and a space of happiness, and it's a safe space. And anything that you're speaking negatively against that I don't agree with, I will delete it. And I don't care if you see that as like a freedom of speech issue. It's not, because this is not all the rest of the world. This is my place that I've created. So if you make your social media, like I always make every room that I embody a representation of myself. Behind me, you can literally see boxes full of playbills, slime stacked on top of them, and colors galore. And there's mermaids over there. You know what I mean? Like there's a hair poster over there. Like whatever. Like I'm not going to live in any kind of environment, whether it's online or off, that doesn't feel like it magnifies my soul in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds super cheesy and like new agey when you say it like that, but I don't really mean it that way. I mean it in a owning your truth kind of way. And when you do that, your social media can be positive, and you don't have to sound slimy in the work that you do, and you can be authentic, and you can own whatever your interests are, regardless of whether it's theater or not, and just create stuff, because the opposite of war isn't peace, it's creation.
Yes!
That's the poster that I took with me to the first Women's March, because my belief isn't to fight those things with more negativity. It's to just make something better.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, that was like a beautiful way to
That
wrap
was
up.
a beautiful way to wrap up.
Unless anyone has 3 minutes of final thoughts.
I have a question for 3 minutes of final thoughts.
A rapid fire
It's
question?
a rapid fire question.
Okay.
Because
Well,
we're talking about social
Okay.
media.
Okay. Ask it quick.
Who is everybody's favorite like Broadway social media presence? Because lately they've been stepping up their game, and like Cher, so on point. The Cher like Twitter and Instagram is so good. I'm just wondering like what everybody else feels, because I think that's so good in engaging us.
Head Over Heels also.
I was gonna say Head Over Heels has been doing a really good job.
I think that
like show account?
What?
No, go ahead.
I think that Mean Girls has the most on-point social media marketing that I have ever seen in my entire life, hands down. I opened my phone and I literally was just like scrolling through Instagram. On my slime Instagram, I don't even follow any shows. So how they found me is miraculous in their, like targeting audiences left and right. I was scrolling through stories, which I didn't even know this could ever even happen. And all of a sudden in my stories, something pops up and it's literally the face of one of the characters. And she was going, oh my God, is she on the other line? I don't know. I have to go. Click. And then it was gone. And I was like, what? I was like, who was that? And it was literally an ad for Mean Girls. And I was like, I'm going to see that. So, that's the win.
Kayla?
I don't know. Yeah, I agree. Mean Girls is really good. And then like a lot of like Broadway actors too are stepping up their game. Like, Jessica Vosk is always on Instagram doing her Instagram stories, like Leslie Margarita, like they're just trying to connect with their fans, and just using the Instagram stories as a way to do that is just something really cool.
Hannah's having a moment over Jessica Vosk.
No, I'm having a moment over a shout out to Patty Murin, because she started a revolution on social media.
Ending that with the shout out to Patty Murin, who said, I don't care what everyone thinks, we're ending the stigma right now, and I'm going to tell you my story. And somebody who suffers from that, to see that up there, it made such a huge, huge impact, and that was amazing. Positivity on social media.
So thank you, everyone. We're under a minute. So thank you, everyone, for joining us.
We'll see you all soon.
Yes.
In person.
Bye.